Chapter 6. Seina's Daily Life, A Little Future. Oh, Seina-chan. Thanks for your hard work today. Seina was carrying a large woven basket on his back as he trained for his job as a meat delivery person and to regain his strength. Meat deliveries began early in the morning when it was still dark, and he delivered ordered meat to each household, much like delivering newspapers or milk. The main meat was sold at the market run by the Hunters and Adventurers Guild or at a local store, but the guild also undertook deliveries to households far from the market or for breakfast. At the end of the delivery, when he delivered the meat to the farmhouse farthest from the city, he was approached by an old lady who had become a friend of the farmhouse. "You have more than usual today. What is it?" Seina made small talk and handed over a hefty portion of meat, wrapped in layers of magic tree leaves, which resembled banana leaves and had a powerful antibacterial effect. The elderly woman accepted it without hesitation, probably thanks to the bioenhancement of her magical organs and the hard work of a farmer. This place is close to the forest of the magical trees, so people come here for periodic extermination. Seina-chan looks like a wreck this morning. Haha, well, various things, you know. Delivery jobs were the source of the bias of probability. This was the result of Nana, who had disguised himself as Seina, working to promote Seina's presence in the first place. But if it was to create an alibi to protect Seina's identity, it was undeniable. Being in an unfamiliar place, he took great care not to cause trouble, but it was very difficult to escape all the troubles. This morning, Seina was surrounded by the smell of meat, and as a result, a flock of a subspecies of spangles the size of dragonflies gathered around him. Fortunately, people here were either easygoing or laid back, and few people avoided him. Maybe Seina-chan is favored by the goddess of Mabia, huh? The old lady gazed happily at the dusty, scratchy figure, partly because Seina himself was smiling even though he was in all sorts of trouble. Goddess of Mabia, is it? Yes, the goddess who controls the balance of destiny. If that goddess likes you, you'll have bad luck. What, you don't mean that it will get worse? She wants you to look at her, so sometimes she plays tricks on you. She's like a child, so don't hate her too much. She protects us from really bad things. Ha ha. I see. Thank you very much for all the information you have given me. He wasn't angry when he heard what happened, and he knew many women like her, so he felt like that was the way it should be. Oh, no. Wait a minute. Those people aren't like children, they're very unpopular, you know. Correcting his own assessment as he talked to himself, Seina carefully placed the large amount of vegetables he received in exchange for carrying the meat in his basket, and then left. The goddess of Mabia, huh? From what I've heard, it sounds like this place is definitely polytheistic. A world dominated by monotheism had many troublesome things. This was because its teachings were absolute in every way. Sometimes it was stronger than the law, and it was a principle so deeply rooted in people's behavior that you never knew where the landmines might be. Of course, Baragaru didn't warn him of this, but it was good to be careful. The way your grandmother was talking earlier, you seem to be a bit loose religiously. Well, people are coming from outer space, so maybe they've already lost that idea. Seina looked up through a break in the trees at the city built into the mountains. The old capital of Nashbar was built around a fairly gentle hill about 300 meters above sea level. The walls that remained here, and there were the remnants of a huge fortified city, but now they were used as building materials to expand the city, and only a part of them remained in the forests. He didn't know what kind of history this was the result of, but it was certain that there was no longer a need to maintain such huge walls. However, the forest of magical trees was still there to secure resources, so the danger of demons remained, but the vast farmlands and a certain system was taking over the role of the walls. It's time to go. The Lord's Hall at the top of the hill was beginning to be illuminated by the rising sun. This was usually the signal for the town to fully awaken at this time of the year. Most families began preparing breakfast around this time of day. Hey Seina. There are many things that look good. There are indeed a lot of things to do when you go a little out of town. Of course, you can't underestimate the city either. What Nayuda was happily talking about were medicinal herbs and precious materials mixed in with the weeds that grew along the sides of the roads, in the plantings, and in the woods. Maybe it's because we're in the middle of town that this is a blind spot. Visualization of magical elements is really useful, isn't it? As a result of various creative efforts since then, Neyuta was now able to control a magic sphere independent of Sena and act separately from him. Of course, since they had one body, this was inconvenient, but by adding various effects to the functions of the magic sphere, they could work separately to some extent. It was also significant that the quantity of magic element had become much higher by creating polar crystals. Moreover, Sena needed to sleep, but Neyuta could work all day long. It would be difficult without this because there are traps all over town. Sena, in particular, falls for every single one of them. There were traps set up all over the town for small demons, pests, and various other pest control measures. Sena could check his surroundings with his magic sphere, but he couldn't keep up with them because Neyuta was monitoring his surroundings but still lacked coordination, and because they were not against humans, they did little harm, and the alert level was low. However, since this kind of trap belonged to a vermin extermination company, it was considered business obstruction, so from a financial point of view he had to be careful. If they were not careful, they would end up in more debt. Normally, I would say don't plant such things in places where people pass by. But Sena was a man who got caught even in places where people don't go. We have to avoid only those things that are highly dangerous. Some of them are clearly illegal to use for surveillance. There were traps, like surveillance sensors, that could be used around town to spy on their prey. They were not permanently deployed, but were activated when a person matching the criteria passed by and sent information to someone somewhere else. Naturally, it was a surveillance trap for malicious crimes. However, Sena, who had visualized the magical element, could see it before it was activated and could see a simple magic circle like a spider's web. When he started walking around town, Sena, with his excellent hazard sensor, sensed that it was something bad and reported it to Baragaru, who only sensed something, but later found out that it was an illegal trap. He taught Sena how to recognize illegal objects, and now he had a part-time job reporting their location for 10,000 yen for each one. By the way, the currency of this world was iron, copper, silver, and gold coins, each of which came in large, medium, and small sizes. Only gold seemed to come in several sizes, but they mostly saw large gold coins. The unit price seemed to be the baru, but it had been changed to yen, which was easy to understand in translation. Considering the cost of living, it was nice to be able to use the coins as they were. The most profitable part-time job so far is probably the one that you can get. The most profitable job so far might be the one that gets you the most money. So, let's specify the area. When they ripen, the bugs will eat them all. The flowers contained several rare medicinal ingredients, but they were volatile, and their medicinal effects were diffused from the moment the flowers opened. However, the flowers were not transformed into medicinal elements until just before they opened, so the timing for collecting the flowers was very critical. The convergence of the magical elements formed a boundary that covered the cluster of flowers, and the spiritual threads connected from there to Sena. Too many for the sake of ease of use. Hundreds of spider-like threads were already coming out of Sena. All of them were used for gathering medicinal herbs. They can go anywhere and no one will catch them, so don't worry about them. The city is full of them, too. I'll put the flowers in the storage when they're ripe. It's nighttime collection, so if I'm asleep, please do it for me. I'll take care of it. I'll go back to the museum to check out more things that I don't know what they are. It's fun there. I like that museum too. I could spend a whole day there and not get bored. The museum charged a fee, so you had to go there after you had saved up some money. Even so, it's getting hard to keep up. Just because there's so much in the spirit thread storage and it's so easy to collect, don't you think you're accumulating too much? It's a debt of hundreds of millions of yen, so anything that can be used to make even a little money should be collected. When it came to money, Kariko's tone of voice would suddenly become harsh. This was also because she was thinking of Sena, so he wouldn't argue with her, but he just wanted her to stop smiling happily every time the debt figure on the contract given to Sena was decreased during the night. Billion or? It was the 10th day after Sena woke up when Baragaru brought the bill.